Cole Merritt had been riding 3 days straight when he found her. The desert had been trying to kill him since sunup. His horse, a big roan gelding named Dust, was limping on the left foreleg and breathing harder than Cole liked. The water in his canteen had run out somewhere around the canyon crossing, and the sun had turned the sky into something that looked like the inside of a furnace. He was not a man who complained. He had grown up hard on the Texas Panhandle, buried 2 brothers and a father before he turned 20, and learned early that the land did not care about your problems. You adapted or you died. He crested a low ridge, and that was when he saw the wagon. It had rolled off the trail and come to rest against a cluster of red rocks. One wheel was cracked clean through, and the canvas covering had torn along the side seam, flapping in the hot wind like a broken wing. A mule lay dead in the traces, its legs stiff, flies already gathering in the heat. Cole pulled Dust to a stop and sat still for a moment, the way a man does when he is reading a scene before he steps into it. He had been a rancher long enough, and before that a scout long enough, to know that a broken wagon out here was either bad luck or a trap. He saw no movement except the canvas. He rode down slow. The woman was sitting in the shade of the wagon's shadow, her back against the rear wheel. She had a rifle across her knees. It was pointed at him before he got within 30 yards, and her hands were steady. Cole raised one hand, palm out, and kept Dust to a walk. She was Apache. He knew that from the way she wore her hair, the cut of her dress, the style of the silver bracelet on her right wrist. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with dark eyes that did not blink when he approached. There was dried blood on her left shoulder where the fabric had been torn, and her face was pale beneath its natural color, the kind of pale that meant blood loss and too much sun. Cole stopped 20 feet away. "I am not your enemy," he said. "I do not know what you are," she said. Her English was clean and direct, no stumble in it. "My name is Cole Merritt. I run cattle 20 miles east of here, near the Cobra River. My horse is lame. I need water, and I suspect you do too." She did not lower the rifle. He waited. A hawk circled overhead, and the wind pushed a handful of sand across the hardpan between them. Cole did not reach for anything. He sat with both hands visible and let her decide. "There is a spring," she said finally. "A quarter-mile north, behind the second outcrop. Will you shoot me if I go get water and come back?" Her eyes moved across him the way a person reads a page, looking for the lie in the print. She had been looking for it the whole time he had been talking. "I will decide when you come back," she said. He nodded, like that was a fair answer, because it was. He rode north, found the spring exactly where she said, let Dust drink, filled both canteens, soaked his bandana, and rode back. She had not moved. The rifle was still up. He set one canteen on the ground between them and backed Dust up 3 steps. She watched him do it. She watched him for a long moment after he did it. Then she reached out, picked up the canteen, and drank. And not desperate, not greedy, measured, like a person who had been taught that showing need was a weakness you could not afford. Cole drank from his own canteen and looked at her shoulder. "That needs cleaning," he said. "I know what it needs." "You can't reach it yourself." "I am aware. I have a kit in my saddlebag. Carbolic, clean cloth, needle and thread if it needs it." He paused. "I have helped stitch up more cowboys than I can count. I will not hurt you more than the wound already does." She looked at him for a long time. "What do you want in return?" she asked. The question was flat and practical, no accusation in it. Just a woman who had learned that nothing in this world came without a price attached. Cole thought about that. He thought about what it said about the life she had lived, that a stranger offering help was something she had to calculate like a transaction. "Nothing," he said. "My mother would haunt me from her grave if I rode past a hurt person and did nothing." Something shifted in her face. "Not much, just enough." "My name is Nara," she said. "My husband died 4 days ago. I am trying to reach my cousin's family near the Palo Verde settlement." Cole nodded. He climbed down from Dust, moved to his saddlebag, and pulled out the kit. He walked toward her the same way he had ridden down, slow and visible. No sudden moves. She did not lower the rifle entirely. She tilted it to one side, barrel angled toward the ground, which was as much permission as she was going to give. He crouched beside her and looked at the wound. It was a gash, not a bullet hole, which was something. Deep, maybe 3 inches long, running along the top of the shoulder where something sharp had caught her. The edges had dried, but not well. It needed cleaning badly. "I will have to move the fabric," he said, "to see the whole wound." She went very still. Not the stillness of someone relaxed. The stillness of someone bracing. "Don't take my clothes off," she whispered. The words were quiet and controlled, but there was something behind them that had nothing to do with the wound, and everything to do with whatever had put that measuring look in her eyes when he first rode up. Cole sat back on his heels. He held the cloth and the carbolic in his hands and looked at her. He did not look away, and he did not pretend he had not heard, and he did not fill the silence with reassurance that would have felt hollow. "Then I will fold the fabric back from the shoulder," he said. "Just the shoulder. That is all I need to see. You keep hold of the rifle the whole time." She looked at him. The hawk was still up there, circling lazy in the heat. "All right," she said. He worked carefully and without rush, folding the torn fabric back only as far as the wound required. He cleaned it with carbolic, which made her jaw tighten but did not make her flinch openly. He pressed clean cloth against it and held firm pressure until the seeping stopped. The wound did not need stitching. He dressed it with what he had, tied it off, and sat back. He folded the fabric back into place without being asked. She was watching his face the whole time he worked. "You did not ask how I was hurt," she said. "Not my business unless you want it to be." She was quiet for a moment. The wind moved through the rocks and made a low sound, like breathing. "3 men," she said. "They wanted the wagon. My husband tried to stop them." Cole did not say anything. There was nothing useful to say. "I drove them off with the rifle." But the wagon wheel was already broken, and Hector was already gone. Hector. Her husband's name dropped into the sentence plain and undecorated, the way people carry the names of the dead. Just the name. The whole weight of it left for the listener to hold. Cole stood up and looked at the horizon. East, then north, then back to the wagon. "I can get that wheel repaired," he said. "There is a man named Pete Garza in Cowboy Crossing, 3 miles east. He fixes wagons, keeps spare parts. I can take you there on Dust. I come back for the mule team situation. Figure out the rest." She looked at the dead mule and then at his horse. "Your horse is limping. He will make 3 miles. And you trust this Pete Garza?" "I have known him 11 years. His wife makes the best tamales in 3 counties, and he has never cheated a customer in his life." The ghost of something crossed her face. Not quite a smile, but the precursor to one. The kind that appears when a person decides, against their better experience, to believe something. "All right, Cole Merritt," she said. She said his name the way she had said Hector's. Plain, and with the full weight of what it meant that she was choosing to use it. He helped her up. She was steadier than she had any right to be. She kept the rifle. He did not suggest she put it down, and they headed east through the shimmering heat, the lame horse moving careful and willing, the dead wagon growing small behind them, the hawk still circling above, like it was waiting to see which way the story went. They reached Pete Garza's place as the sun dropped behind the far ridge and the sky turned the color of old copper. Pete came out of his workshop with grease on his hands and his hat pushed back, squinting at the two of them on the one horse the way a man squints at something that does not quite make sense, but does not quite worry him either. He was a short, broad man with a gray mustache and the arms of someone who had been swinging a hammer since childhood. His wife, Louisa, appeared in the doorway of the house behind him and looked at Nara the way women look at other women who have been through something, with a kind of immediate understanding that men generally take longer to arrive at. Louisa had Nara inside and sitting at the kitchen table before Cole had finished explaining the situation to Pete. Pete listened without interrupting, which was one of the things Cole had always respected about him. He had a way of letting a person finish a sentence, a habit increasingly rare in Cole's experience. "Wheel I can fix," Pete said when Cole was done. "Got a spare that will likely match. We can take the flatbed out in the morning, recover the wagon, figure out the mule situation. She needs to reach Palo Verde. Palo Verde is 2 days from here by wagon, 1 hard day on horseback." Pete looked at Dust. "Your horse is not making 1 hard day on anything for a while." "I know. Leave him with me. He needs rest and his shoe reset on that left front. I have a good mare you can borrow, steady animal, nothing spooks her." Cole looked through the open door into the kitchen, where Louisa had set a plate of food in front of Nara and was talking to her in a low, comfortable voice. Nara was eating, slowly at first, then less slowly. "She lost her husband 4 days ago," Cole said quietly. Pete was quiet for a moment. "We will give her the spare room," he said. "Louisa will want to." Cole nodded. He unsaddled Dust and got him settled in the corral with water and feed. Checked the foreleg carefully, found no serious damage. Just a bruised frog that rest would cure. Then he went inside and sat at the other end of the table from Nara and accepted the plate that Louisa put in front of him without argument, and because refusing food from Louisa was something a man simply did not do. Nara looked at him across the table. "You did not have to come this far," she said. "Cowboy Crossing is on my way home." "It is not on your way home." Cole looked at his plate. "No," he said. "It is not." She did not say thank you. She looked at him for a moment with those measuring eyes, and then she looked back at her food, and something in the set of her shoulders changed by about 1 degree, from braced to something not quite relaxed, but at least no longer braced, which was its own kind of thing. Louisa caught Cole's eye across the kitchen and gave him the small nod of a woman who had seen enough of the world to know what that 1 degree meant. Outside, the desert dark was coming in fast, and the stars were beginning to appear over the ridgeline one at a time, tentative at first and then all at once, the way courage sometimes works. Cole drank his coffee and listened to the coyotes start up somewhere out in the flats, and did not think too hard about the fact that he was going to ride to Palo Verde in the morning, and that it was 2 days out of his way, and that his cattle were not going to manage themselves, and that he was going to do it anyway. Some things did not require thinking. Some things just required getting on the horse. He turned in early in the small room Pete kept for travelers passing through, and lay on the cot with his boots near the door and his eyes on the low ceiling, listening to the quiet of the house settle around him. Down the hall, behind the closed door of the spare room, where there was no sound at all. He hoped that meant she was sleeping. He thought it probably did not. He did not think he was sleeping much either, and for reasons that he was not entirely prepared to examine, The two facts felt connected. They left before sunrise. Louisa had packed provisions, enough for 2 days out and the return. Nara wore a clean shirt that Louisa had insisted on, a simple blue cotton one that fit well enough. And she had her rifle across her saddle, and the silver bracelet on her right wrist caught the first pale light as they rode out of the yard. Pete had given Cole the gray mare he had promised, a solid, deep-chested animal named Clara, who moved at an easy trot and had the kind of steady temperament that made a long ride feel shorter than it was. Nara rode well, better than well. She had a natural economy of motion, no wasted movement, no fighting the horse. She and her animal moved as one unit, which was not something you could teach a person. Either they had it or they did not. Cole noticed this the way he noticed things he was not entirely trying to notice. They did not talk much in the first hours. The desert demanded attention in the early morning, the light doing strange things to the distance, making far ridges look close and close rocks look far. They moved at a steady pace, reading the terrain as they went. Around mid-morning, they stopped at a wide, dry wash to let the horses drink from the shallow trickle at its center. Nara dismounted and crouched by the water and looked at something in the sand on the far bank. "Boot prints," she said. 3 men. Yesterday, moving west. Cole came up beside her and looked. She was right. 3 distinct sets of tracks, the heel marks deep, the stride long, moving fast. "The men who took your wagon?" he asked. She studied the prints for a moment. "Same number," she said. "I cannot be certain." Cole looked west. The tracks disappeared into a line of broken rock. "If they are heading west, they are not heading toward Palo Verde," he said. "No." She stood and looked at him. "But they may not be done with what they came out here for." They both knew what she meant. A broken wagon was not the prize those men had been looking for. A woman alone was a different matter. Cole mounted up. "We keep moving," he said. "Good pace, no stopping longer than necessary." Nara mounted without comment and brought her horse up beside his. And they moved out of the wash and back onto the hard ground at a faster clip than before. The land opened up around them, wide and red and indifferent, and the sun climbed toward noon, and the heat came down like a hand pressing on the back of the neck. And Cole rode with his eyes moving constantly, left, forward, right, back to left, the way a man rides when he knows that something out in the distance is aware of where he is going. Nara rode the same way. He noticed that too. It was mid-afternoon when they saw the dust. It rose in a thin column about a mile to the northwest, the kind of column that 3 horses moving at speed will raise on dry ground. Moving parallel to them, slightly ahead, angling toward the single pass through the ridge that stood between them and the valley where Palo Verde sat. "For they're trying to cut us off at the gap," Nara said. Her voice was flat. Cole looked at the dust, calculated the distance and speed, calculated the width of the gap, calculated the time. It was going to be close. "Can your horse run?" he asked. She answered by giving her animal its head. They went. The desert blurred on both sides, and the wind hit Cole's face like thrown sand, and Clara stretched out under him with a willingness that made him grateful for Pete Garza and his steady mare. And he could hear Nara's horse half a length behind and to his left, the rhythm of hooves on hardpan like something frantic and unstoppable. The gap in the ridge was a narrow slot of rock, wide enough for 2 horses abreast but no more. They hit it with 300 yards to spare. Cole pulled up just inside the gap and turned. Nara came through and wheeled her horse and brought the rifle up in one smooth motion, covering the open ground behind them. They waited. The dust column had stopped. A long moment passed, The horses breathed hard. Cole's hand was near his sidearm. Nara's rifle was steady. Nothing came through the open ground. The dust began to disperse in the wind. Whether the men had seen the speed they had moved, or had recognized the rifle, or had simply decided the trouble was not worth the prize, Cole could not know. But they did not come. He looked at Nara. She kept the rifle up for another full minute, scanning the ground behind them before she lowered it. "Smart or cautious?" Cole said. "Either way," she said. She did not need to finish the sentence. They rode through the gap and down into the valley, and the air changed, cooler and touched with the smell of water. And below them, the small cluster of buildings that was Palo Verde appeared in the afternoon light, solid and real, and exactly where it was supposed to be. Neither of them said anything for a moment. Then Nara said, "I would like to reach my cousin before dark." "We will," Cole said. They rode down. Her cousin's name was Daniel Swiftwind, a broad-shouldered man of about 40 with his sister's same direct eyes, who came out of his house when he heard the horses and stopped short when he saw Nara, and then crossed the yard fast and took her by the shoulders and looked at her face the way family looks at family when the news that has been traveling ahead has finally arrived. He had already heard about Hector. Word moved in strange ways across the desert, on the long paths that Cole could not entirely map. Daniel gripped Nara's hands and spoke quietly in Apache for a moment, and she answered. And whatever passed between them was not for Cole to hear. He waited at the edge of the yard and looked at the hills and gave them their time. Daniel's wife, a round-faced woman named Alice, who had 3 small children hanging off her apron, brought Cole water and cornbread without being asked. Because in Palo Verde, hospitality was not a gesture, it was a reflex. Cole ate and drank and watched the last of the light leave the sky. After a while, Nara came back across the yard. "Daniel wants to know if you will stay the night," she said. "It is too dark to ride back to the gaps safely, and there are still those men in the flats." Cole looked at the dark sky and then at her. "I do not want to impose," he said. "You are not imposing," she said. "Daniel says any man who brings his cousin safe through Cobrejo Pass is welcome at his table for as long as he likes." She paused. "I told him what you did. The wound, the wagon, all of it." Cole was quiet. "He cried," she said. "He is not ashamed of it. He says my husband Hector would have liked you." Cole looked at his boots for a moment. "I would have liked to know him," he said. The silence between them was not empty. It was the kind of silence that holds something that does not yet have a name. "Stay," Nara said. It was not a question, but it was not a command either. It was something in between, offered plain, without decoration. "All right," Cole said. Daniel's house was warm and full and loud with children. And Alice made a meal that was better than anything Cole had eaten in months. And afterward, the adults sat around the fire outside, and Cole answered Daniel's questions about the men in the flats, and they made a plan together for sending word to the county sheriff in the morning, which was the sensible and right thing to do. Nara sat across the fire from Cole and said little. But she was not distant. There is a difference between quiet and absent. And she was fully present in the quiet, in the way she listened, in the way her eyes moved from face to face around the fire, with something that was not quite ease, but was moving in that direction. Cole caught her looking at him twice. The second time, she did not look away. He did not look away either. The fire popped and the stars were enormous overhead, and the coyotes were somewhere out past the settlement's edge doing what coyotes do. And the children had long since been put to bed. And the night air had that particular smell of desert after a long, hot day, dust and creosote and something faint and cool that came up from the earth itself. Daniel went inside. Alice followed him. Cole and Nara sat with the dying fire between them. "You will go back to your ranch tomorrow," she said. "Yes." "And then what?" He looked at the coals. "Cattle do not move themselves," he said. "No," she said. "They do not." A long quiet. "Hector has been gone 4 days," she said. "I am not going to pretend that I have stopped missing him or that grief is a thing that moves quickly. It does not. I know that." "I know that too," Cole said. She looked at him across the fire. "But I notice things," she said. "I notice them whether I intend to or not." Cole sat with that. "So do I," he said. The fire burned down to almost nothing, a few bright coals in the dark, and the night held them both in it, separate and close in the same moment. The way the desert holds everything. Not gently, not unkindly, just completely. He left in the morning with Clara and a saddlebag full of Alice's cornbread and Daniel's handshake, and a promise to send word to the sheriff about the men in the flats. Nara walked out to the yard when he mounted up. She looked up at him in the early gray light, and the silver bracelet was on her wrist, and her eyes were doing that thing they always did, reading him for the lie in the print. But there was something different in them now. Not certainty, not trust, not fully, but the beginning of trust, which is its own kind of courage. "When the grass comes back in spring," she said, "I will be here." Cole held that for a moment. "I will know where to find you," he said. He turned Clara east and rode out through the gate and into the wide open desert, and the sun was just beginning to pull itself up over the ridge, and the light came down long and gold across the hardpan. And somewhere behind him, Palo Verde was waking up, and ahead of him, his ranch and his cattle and his ordinary life waited with its ordinary demands. He rode through all of it with the specific and wordless knowledge of a man who has turned a corner he did not know was there. The desert went on in every direction, red and wide and patient, the way it always had. Cole Merritt rode east, yet he was already thinking about spring.